Typically, though, those type of supply shocks are only fairly short-lived, but I prefer to do without it.
Nick Riley from General Motors Europe there at the Geneva Auto Show. Good talking to you again, Nick. Well, a world away from luxury cars and sustainable energies is Kyrgyzstan, facing a spring of discontent. Food prices are soaring, unemployment is rampant, and the nation is at risk of defaulting on its external debt. Have a look at this from Robin Forestier-Walker now on a nation struggling to get a grip on its economy.
Poverty flourishes in the shadow of these mountains. The ramshackle town of AlJazeera, population 15,000, the houses were built illegally on private land by rural poor seeking opportunity, just outside the capital Bishkek. The Doronov family has no running water, no electricity, and no local school to educate the children. Times are hard. Food price inflation is the highest in the region, up as much as 40% from this time a year ago. After the revolution in April last year, it looked as if the fortunes of the people in this town had changed because suddenly electricity pylons began to appear. But after the elections and the formation of the new coalition government, the work ceased. And the people here remain cut off, not just from the grid, but from the wider society. One explanation is that there is no public money to finish projects like this. The government plans to increase the budget this year by up to 30%, but acknowledges substantial problems.
We have a budget with a deficit and a stagnant economy. Our first priority has been to stabilise the economy through elaborate mechanisms that could provide us with results this year.
That includes raising tax revenues, but by some estimates, as much as 70 to 80% of all the money in Kyrgyzstan flows through the underground economy. And critics say this, above all, must be addressed.
They're not trying to, work with the current situation that we have with the grey economy and see how we can attract those businesses, those entrepreneurs, to come into the official sector and start paying taxes.
The quick fix for Kyrgyzstan will inevitably be aid and loans from international donors, but that means continuing dependency and debt, while towns like AlJazeera remain a symbol of sickness at the root of the Kyrgyz economy.
Now, the continuing unrest we see in the Middle East has its roots in the lack of jobs for the growing young population. Now, the Spanish Prime Minister, José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, says Europe should create a bank to support emerging democracies. Taimour Nabili sat down with the Prime Minister and asked him, was indebted Europe really in a position to create a Marshall Plan for the fledgling Middle East economies?
Tenemos que distinguir dos planos. Uno son el plano de las instituciones europeas.
We have to differentiate between two plans. One is the plan of European institutions and their capacity for financial cooperation with countries in North Africa and the Arab world. And in Europe, we do have healthy financial institutions, such as the European Investment Bank, and the possibility of having a financial body to support countries in the Mediterranean. And secondly, the Marshall Plan, which, with the help of private companies and large international companies from Europe, North America, Asia, indeed from all over the world, could group together to raise investment for countries that are changing towards democracy. And I can assure you that those companies have plenty of resources. They have plenty of money and they can make the effort. We've got to organise and plan for that. But I think there's a huge opportunity to help these countries get on their feet financially as soon as possible, and also for big companies to open up important markets, markets with millions of citizens, lots of them young people, that when the economy picks up will go on to become potential customers and go on to earn themselves jobs and a more dignified quality of life.
I confess I'm a little surprised. Your background in the Spanish left and what seems to be a global feeling of concern about the strength of private corporations these days, and yet what you're proposing is an entirely private sector-led solution for an area like North Africa. As I say, a little bit surprising.
No, a mí me sorprendería si dijera que fueran a apoyar a países ricos.
I'd be surprised if you suggested I was going to support rich countries, but we're talking about countries with a high percentage of unemployment and poverty, like Egypt, where nearly half the population gets by on €1 a day. So it's good that large international companies can invest and create wealth. There's politics and there's politics. Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the world, but he's also one of the men that invests the most in the fight against malaria and hunger. That's forward-thinking politics. What wouldn't be forward-thinking would be for me to ask Bill Gates to invest in rich countries and areas where people have everything they need. But asking big companies to invest where it's needed is forward-thinking politics, and if we achieve it, it will be a really good thing for those countries and their young people. Because as you correctly said earlier, at the moment our countries have huge budget limitations. We have huge fiscal limitations, and big companies are the ones with less limitations because they have more funds and more credit. So we've got to call on them to make an effort, in a social and a historical sense. That isn't easy, but we have to try.
Do you think you are going to be able to guide Spain out of its current crisis? You are still waiting for the banks to come through with a workable plan to rebalance their balance sheets. And your banks are heavily indebted to a property sector that is still going down. On the other hand, you have the ECB and Germany taking an extremely hawkish line on interest rates. And if those rates go up, that is going to magnify your problems. How much control and how much leeway do you have right now to save the Spanish economy?
Sí, seguro que vamos a salir de la crisis económica.
I am sure we will get out of the financial crisis. The economy has already started to grow. We're making large reforms. We're reorganizing the economy. We can guarantee the stability of the financial system, which has held up very well throughout the financial crisis. The Spanish system has a good method of regulation and it's secure. Our big challenge is to complete all the necessary changes. We've almost finished making the fundamental reforms, so now our challenge is to create jobs again, to generate confidence. That's the big challenge. But the stability of debt, the stability of growth, the fact that there's no going back from the recession, and the stability of the financial system, I can guarantee all of those. Now what we've got to do is finance the recovery, boost growth, and create more jobs, which is our main problem. It's been a tough battle, but day by day we are winning.
To Bangladesh now, where the former Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus has refused to relinquish his post as managing director of Grameen Bank. Now, you've probably heard of Yunus, the father of microfinance, they call him. He set up Grameen Bank to offer microloans to millions suffering in poverty in Bangladesh and beyond. But now the government wants him gone. Charles Stratford explains why.
He's known as the banker to the poor and won a Nobel Peace Prize 5 years ago. The Grameen Bank that Yunus founded has provided